I said at 7, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to be an astronaut. I want to explore space. I want to be command of my own ship, my own spaceship. I want to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Flip Your Script is produced by Media Minefield, a public relations firm passionate about the power of sharing stories. Specializing in earned and social media, Media Minefield helps clients take control of their unique story and message. The show is hosted by Kristi Piehl, founder and CEO of Media Minefield, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
Today we have the privilege of learning the story of a true trailblazer, a woman who broke barriers from the cockpit of a spy plane. Merryl Tengesdal is the first and only African-American woman to fly the United States Air Force's U-2 plane. You may also recognize Merryl from Season 2 of CBS's Tough as Nails. Merryl, also known as the Dragon Lady, is now a fitness instructor and motivational speaker. Merryl, welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You are a retired colonel who served our country for 23 years, so I want to just begin by thanking you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the support.
So you broke barriers. We talked about it. You're the first African-American woman to do what you did in a certain kind of plane. And so often we talk about you can't be what you don't see. So you didn't know that a black woman could do what you did. How did you as a little girl have the motivation, the drive, the ambition to say, no one else has, but I'm going to?
I just looked at a lot of science fiction and I saw people doing some amazing things exploring space. And I was very fascinated about exploring the unknown. And I said at 7, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to be an astronaut. I want to explore space. I want to be command of my own ship, my own spaceship. I want to boldly go where no one has gone before.
And did the people around you say, yes, go do that? Or were there people around you who said, nobody else has ever done that. I'm not sure. Maybe you should do something safer.
People didn't say I could not do it, but people didn't encourage me. My impression growing up was that it was just a phase that I was going through and that I would outgrow that. And as the years went on, it was just a steady focus of mine. My mom she never said, no, you can't do that. But again, I had been told no before about playing sports and hanging out with the guys all the time. So if someone said no to me, I would have ignored them anyway. Did
it motivate you a little bit that nobody had done it before?
I didn't think about it. So it motivated me because I just wanted to get where I was going. I wanted to be that astronaut. And the more I saw it, or the more that I saw space travel or watching aircraft fly, the more I said, oh, I could do that. I'm going to do that. I just never thought about it in terms of the small black girl wants to be something that no one else was. I mean, it's the same thing with sports. I hung out with the people that I had the same similar interests as me. So that was the focus.
And this type of plane, I was reading about it, and one of the unusual things about it is that it's very high, and you can see the curvature of the Earth, which you have said before is something that very few people have seen, and it's pretty spectacular. So when you're getting in that cockpit for the first time, knowing that you're going to be the first African-American woman to have done this, were you struck by the moment, or were you struck by the fact that you got to see something that very few humans have ever gotten to see?
The moment I got for my first high flight, and the first high flight you fly in the U-2, you're flying with an instructor. And you're in the suit for the first time. So there's a lot of things going on. And in my mind, I was like, just don't kill yourself. So it was not about, I did not realize what I had done until my first solo in the aircraft. And someone actually said it to me afterwards. Because again, when you're flying, and you're a student, you're just thinking about, I don't want to fail the ride. I don't want to have a mishap. You're thinking about safety issues. You're not thinking about, am I going to break some barriers today? Am I going to do something? It's, to me, I was focused on the job and the mission and the training sortie. So even when someone said it to me after, it was, I was like, okay, but I'm still in student mode. So I'm like, yeah, I got to study for my next ride the next day and be ready and go do this. So now that I look back at it, maybe 13, 15 years ago, I go, oh, that's pretty good. That was a pretty cool moment. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
It's very neat. And you're still the only 15 years, 13 years later. Why?
Yes, flying the U-2 is not for everyone. It takes a certain special person to do it. It's not for those. It can be a very uncomfortable aircraft. It's a challenging aircraft. It's, there's still maybe 10, 11 women in the history of the U-2 that have flown it. So again, maybe 1,100, a little over 1,100 pilots. So it's not a huge community. So the percentage of women are going to be small. It's just unfortunate that I'm still the only Black woman to fly.
Do you miss it?
Oh, absolutely. Being in the military, flying the U-2 in that community, it was a small brother, small sisterhood, a bunch of professional people. I sometimes joke and say it's the land of the not quite right, because you have to be a little not quite right to put a pressure suit on, sit in an aircraft the size of a smart car or a telephone booth, fly for hours on end, really not talking to anyone, and then having no bathroom to go to and eating food out of a tube. Most people would think that's totally insane. And, so there's a few of us who kind of enjoy that and enjoy that moment because it's worth it doing the mission, helping those on the ground. It's worth it seeing the view. It's worth it flying a challenging aircraft that only a handful of people can fly. So it's definitely worth it.
So you're wired in a special way, in a unique way, perhaps, in maybe many different ways, because you're obviously courageous, you're bold, you're brave, you did things no one else had done before, and paved this path for people, women to come after you, hopefully. So when you meet and talk to young women specifically, and they have big dreams or big goals, what do you tell them? How do you encourage them? Because so many young women, especially women of color, get to a certain stage, whether it's someone says they can't do it or there's some kind of something holding them back and they can't push beyond. And that's why we see so few women sitting at, corporate boards. We see so few women running companies. There's all these things that people aren't yet doing as often as other types of people. What kind of advice do you have for folks who are thinking they're going to be the first one of something?
I tell most people, hey, I want to be the first this or first that. I go, don't think of it that way. Think of it as just, I want to do X or I want to do Y. And you've got to be ready to put in sacrifices, and you have to be ready to give it your all. If you kind of give it a half of an effort, you're going to get the results half of an effort. And certain people say, well, I don't want to do that. That's crazy. Well, there's someone out there who's going to do it. And those who are successful are the ones who, lean into the uncomfortableness, the ones who lean into the fear. When I started flying, I remember as a kid, one of my first flights, I could not equalize my ears. And I remember a lot of pain associated with my first commercial flight. I remember I didn't like roller coaster rides that much. And then when I was 17, I was like, I need to get on one that goes in a loop, because if I fly planes, I'm going to be doing that. So let's figure out now if I'm going to get sick or not. Actually, I didn't. I actually quite enjoyed it, but it was the mental block at first. And we all have it. We all have those fears that we're not going to do well. But if it makes you freeze, if you keep putting it off, there's someone else who's going to come up behind you and do it and take the reins. So for me, I was like, I don't want to be that person that had any regrets. So I'm going to do what I need to do.
Fantastic advice. And it's that mindset of, if not me, someone else. So why not me?
Absolutely.
Why can't I
Absolutely.
do it? Just because
Yeah, no
someone
one
else said?
yeah, someone else said, or probably people in the Air Force and Navy are gonna hate me, but I've had the opportunity to be in both services. And a lot of people always ask me, is there a difference in pilots out of the Air Force and Navy? And I would say the caliber of people, there are great pilots in either service. Because I've had the opportunity to instruct in both. But the mindset is different. And for the Navy, we're always taught our instructions, our NATOPs, our standard operating procedures, tell you what you can't do. So these are the rules. Don't break those. If you break those and you do something wrong, be prepared to speak in front of your peers about why this happened. And in the Air Force, and for the Navy, the reason why they do that is because a lot of times you're in a position where you can't speak to a higher power. So you have to be confident in the decisions that you make. You have to know the rules. And you have to know what you can't do that'll break the aircraft or kill you or someone else. In the Air Force, their instruction manuals are a lot bigger, but it's all about what you can do. And they outline everything that you can do. And if it's not written in there, then you shouldn't really do it. So for me, for the Air Force, my experience is that you're always around someone who can answer a question for you if you get into some trouble. You have someone there. And it's just a different mindset. The pilots are just as good, but it's a different way of thinking. So when I went from the Navy to the Air Force, this mindset was, it's just prevalent. That's the foundation. And a lot of the Navy people that were in flying the U-2s, we always used to sit around quietly and kind of smile and joke like, man, there's so many things they say we can do, but why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? So it's just a mindset change. And that's all it is. For everyone else, your mindset is, hey, if you want to do that, go do it. No one said you can't. So what's the problem? Don't put any unnecessary restrictions on yourself because no one said so.
And you finished your military career, and you then did the Dragon Lady moniker happen in the military? Did that happen post-military? How did that come about?
Well, the Dragon Lady is actually the name of the U2. It's the U2 Dragon Lady.
Oh, okay. See, I did all sorts of research about you, and I did not know that. But now people call you that.
They do. So, I mean, it came from, Tough as Nails. When I was interviewing, I really didn't have everyone comes from more of the trades, and, I was the veteran, and all the trades guys have their, if you're a bricklayer, you're a welder, you have your stuff that you wear. And I didn't really have anything. So I remember they were just thinking about, hey, what can you wear, Merrill, that represents what you do? And I had this shirt and they loved it. They loved the color. They loved everything about it. It represented the U2. I think most of the cast was confused on the show until I started talking and they found out what I did. So it just kind of worked out that way. So the Dragon Lady shirt, Phil started talking about it and it kind of stuck, which is kind of funny because in my military career, I really didn't have a call sign that stuck.
Why did you decide to do the show?
Wow. So I'm coming up on 4 years post-retirement. And when this opportunity came out, first of all, I was honored, I was flattered, and why not? I was already talking to people about my story. A lot of people say my story is interesting. I'm just doing what I'm doing. And when the casting producer came up to me and asked, I said, all right, this sounds like a great opportunity to share my story and talk about it. And it's a competition with other people who are trying to see who's tougher. I have a lot of physical toughness, but I'm also mentally tough. I thought it was a well-rounded show after seeing the first season that I could do and compete pretty well. I knew I was older, so that added an extra layer of difficulty. And quite frankly, the experience was amazing. Post-military, I think most retired military people life is great and I'm not complaining, but there's definitely something to be said about competition, working with teams. You, it's nostalgic, but you kind of miss something as a military person. I think most of the retired military people I talk to after, to get used to civilian life could be difficult. It's kind of hard. It's uh, it's something that you have to get used to, working with true civilians and not having the mentality that you've been brought up with for over 2 decades. Half my life has been in the military. So when I got out and now I'm dealing with people who can't get to work on time or manage their time, and I'm a colonel, it makes me frown a little bit. But I can't say much because I too am a civilian and I'm a trainer and I'm not a manager. So I
Can't
have to
tell him
keep
like
going.
drop and give me 20.
I wouldn't do that to someone, but I would have maybe more of a candid conversation and not have to worry about them tearing up because the words I choose are
You might
very
hurt
real.
someone's feelings.
Uh, just a little bit. I try to choose my words wisely, but it happens.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm a direct person as well. And I've been around when I said something and someone starts crying and it's like, really? I don't understand that. But again, I'm not wired like a pilot, but I am wired uniquely. And I don't understand that. But everyone is different, right?
Yes, and you just have to adjust.
So you did the show and it opened some doors for you.
I did it. It has been an extremely positive experience. So I was a little leery at first because it's still a reality show, and with reality, there's this stigma about reality not so real, a lot of drama, and I did not want that. I mean, I have a family, I have kids, now I have kids. I used to have one child, now I have a, a foster a foster daughter, and you get concerned about that, especially if you're doing the speaking, if you're trying to speak to people, and you don't want to be portrayed in a certain way. But Phil and Louise Kogan were like, "Hey, we're here to share your story and inspirational message." So you had to kind of push the "I believe" button, and they have delivered on everything. And Phil and Louise have been very upfront, and they're very caring, and they care about the people who are on that show. I can't say enough good things about them. They were true to their word.
What's the best thing that came out of you doing that?
The best thing is that I was my son and my foster daughter were just loving it. They were pretty proud. My son, he didn't know if I won or lost, but I kept saying to him, "So if I lose, you're gonna be disappointed." He's like, "No, you're on tough as nails." Like he was so excited. He like thumps his chest about it, and it's very interesting to see. So I actually enjoyed that part. And my foster daughter got to see some things, and when she heard about herself on the show, she goes, "That's me." And she got very excited. She had a pretty, her background is she has a lot of baggage, and it's 90% all bad. The best part is that she was born, but now she has this opportunity to be the best little human being that she could possibly be, and we're working through that. And it's going to take some time, but in the past, was it 8 or 9 months, she's come a long way. And I can't say it's been, for her perspective, she's probably, this is tough because I got two military parents right now that have this high expectation of me. But when she sees little things like that, she gets excited. So it gets me excited.
So your kid's more excited about that than knowing that mama flew planes where 1,100 people on the planet have ever flown planes.
My son, he likes all of it. He's 8 going on 20. He's very compassionate. My husband's a physicist. So my son's wicked smart, and he's very astute for such a young age. So he loves all parts of it. He knows I'm a YouTube pilot. He knows he's very aware. He loves it all. If he could talk to his friends about it, he's like, "My mom's a YouTube pilot." And then he'll turn around, "My mom was on Tough as Nails."
That's a good flex at elementary school. Yeah, what's your mom doing? Well, my mom, she's tough as nails and she was a military pilot and nobody else has done what she did, but okay. It's pretty cool. So, with your children, if one of them came to you and said, "You know what, Mom, I want to follow in your footsteps. I want to go into the military." Are you celebrating that or are you concerned about that?
I'm celebrating it 100%. I understand the military is a place. I could see my son saying, I want to do special forces, and I would celebrate it. Of course, as a mom, I'd be concerned because it could be dangerous. But at a young age, before I went to college, I realized, someone asked me, you want to be an astronaut someday? It's very dangerous. I go, well, I could die crossing the street and getting hit by a car, someone distracted driving. I'd rather die doing something that I enjoy, that I love, that I'm passionate about, that I think will get me somewhere than some rando taking me out. In the afterlife, I'd be pretty ticked off about that. Like, I'd be mad. So if I was in a plane and I did everything I could do and that day just wasn't my day and I went down and I didn't make it, I'd be okay.
And you were helping people, which sounds like motivated you deeply.
Absolutely. I mean, helping people, I don't want to say this is a question, but isn't that what we're here for? It's as human beings, I think, how do you want to, there's billions of people that have come and gone in this earth. If you can leave one little nugget behind, what would it be? And, the fact that I helped someone or did a mission to help someone get a little further, I'm good with that.
And that's what you're doing with your daughter.
Absolutely. I mean, my husband and I, whether we had children or not, we always talked about it, fostering to adopt. And I think even more so in the past year and a half, when some things have come to light, that fostering to adopt or putting some skin in the game, if you want to help people and say that everyone matters and which people do, and my husband and I are in a position where we put our money where our mouth is, and we did that in terms of providing the opportunity for a child and exposed our family to some instability to help someone. We wouldn't do it if our son wasn't the person that he was. Again, our family nucleus is important, but we know he can handle it, and he's being a big trooper, even though sometimes he's like, I don't want a sister, but overall, I mean, they get along pretty well. So yeah, that's just the way we look at it.
It's very inspiring, and I imagine it's you. You alluded to it a little bit earlier, and we hear about it on the podcast through different people's stories as they talk about how they flip their script. But so many people go through something that's difficult or break a barrier, or do something, and then it's difficult with that kind of mindset where you're out to help people and you're out to make a difference and you are driving, and then you hear someone complaining about they couldn't make it to work on time, or they can't do the extra push-up, or they can't. For someone wired like you, especially military to civilian, it's got to be the mindset that you have and the mindset that makes success and that drives success. You see it and you live it. How do you now, as a motivational speaker, try and teach that to people who aren't wired that way? Because the reality is most people aren't.
Right. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they bring some self-doubt into the equation. And I try to explain through my journey, because I was a person that doubted myself. I was a person that got made fun of a lot when I was growing up. I had my dad at one point, when I was already an instructor, say that if man was meant to fly, he would have given us wings. And I mean, I'm in my 20s and he's saying this. So there's a lot of people out there, for lack of a better term, who hate or want to put, doubt in the minds of others so they can't aspire to what they want to be. And I tell people these stories. Things like that make me angry. When people try to keep other people down, I mean, it quite frankly pisses me off, and it makes me more determined to show them. Part of, growing up, yeah, I was made fun of. And I'll be frank, some of that was the fuel to my fire of motivation. I'm thankful for those people because they angered me enough to say, I'll show you how far I can really go. You want to make fun of me because I play sports? Then I'm going to be the best sports person I can. So every time you see me, it just makes you angry. I don't want to say negative gets a negative response, but it was definitely something that I thought about and was part of the fuel. I mean, you can't have some fire without a little bit of spark in you. So, I tell people to channel that well, because that anger can consume you. But if you can channel it into the activities that you're doing, then by all means, go do that.
And it's so interesting, I think, as a parent and as a child, having a parent with a child, to be able to say, I want my kid to have an easy life. And I want them to be able to have all the things so that they can go on into adulthood well. And yet most people who are successful, most people who I've interviewed on this podcast, most people who go on to do amazing things had struggle, and they point to struggle and they're grateful that they had the struggle because it made them who they are. So how do you balance this? God, I want an easy life for my kids, but I also want them to know that they can overcome struggle and they can go out and do whatever they want.
The way I balance that is I watch them have life lessons. There are times when I say something and they don't listen and they want to do, especially my son, especially when he was younger, even as a baby. Okay, quick story. I used to say to him, life lesson all the time. Like when he was 2 or 3, I'd be like, Flynn, don't do this. He'd do it. And he'd fall and hurt himself, start crying. And I would look at him deadpan. I go, life lesson. I'd walk away. And when he was 4 and he could speak, one time we were out in the playground, and he knew at this point you never run in front of a moving swing when a kid's on it, because usually that ends in disaster. And there was another child about 3 years old who walked in front of the swing that he was on. And as he was coming forward, almost hit the child, but I grabbed the child at the last minute and moved him out of the way. And when we got off the swing, my son, I kid you not, looked at me and said, Mommy, he almost had a life lesson. And I put my hand on my mouth and I go, yes, he did. And at that moment, I knew my son, he understood that there are things that you could do where you're going to hurt yourself. And sometimes you have to experience that. And even to this day, he's 8 years old. We'll talk and he'll want to, case in point, he's doing a tryout for a soccer team. He hasn't practiced in a year. He's not that good. And I've been talking to him. He goes, I'm not going to make the team. And I go, you might not, but this is a life lesson for you. What are we going to do now? And he goes, well, this weekend I'm going to practice. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do all this stuff. So he's already starting a plan in his head, because at first he said, I'm going to focus. I go, well, you need to do more than that. How about practice? He goes, okay, well, I'm going to practice with X person, Y person. I want to do this. I want to go here. He'll be disappointed if he doesn't make it, but he already knows if he doesn't, how to get better. And that's the lesson part, like, that I want him to understand. Okay, you may not be successful, but how do you get better so when you come back, you're a beast? Because he has the coordination. He is an athletic child. He just needs to practice. So now he understands. So at 8 years old, he will understand now for any sport he goes to, he needs to practice. And in life, you're going to need to practice. So I let them learn these lessons. It's hard to watch. It was difficult to watch him yesterday on the soccer field because it wasn't that good. But don't tell him that. But you got to let them live through those moments and not bring in your childhood baggage to help them. Let them learn, and they're going to surprise you at the end. The fact that he has planned out for the next 6 months what he's going to do, that makes me proud. That's so much prouder than me helping him and him not learning anything from it.
Great example. And that you didn't go in and rescue him. All right, we have 24 hours. I'm going to hire you a soccer coach because you better make the team. I mean, that's, to your point, that's about you and not about him. And he's got to figure it out.
Right.
So we end the podcast with, I could talk to you all day, but I'm sure you have places to be and people to talk with, and your kid and your husband may want to see you again. Do you have a quote or something that has motivated you as you've made these transitions through your life, from this childhood of some self-doubt or people doubting you, to military, to motherhood, to motivational speaker, to fitness instructor? a quote something that stands out for you.
So I talked about it last week when I was talking to young men and women, teenagers who had just done a work ready program in Solano County. And I said, on your journey, you're going to have challenges or obstacles. And you have to be ready and flexible to take those detours. You're going to have to be ready to go a different way. If you can't go around the obstacle, go over it, go through it, but you have to be ready to take that detour. The road to success is not a straight line. It is twists and turns. And for me as an astronaut, I love the adventure. So you have to be ready for this great adventure. You have to be ready to enjoy the moments to get there, because it makes the experience so much better. And with that, you have to be flexible. You cannot be single-minded. And with each detour, you have to understand there will be growth, there will be some experience, and there will be a story that comes out of it. And that's how going through life with that mindset will make things so much easier.
Thank you for sharing. And obviously a story has come out of your life already, and you've got a lot left. So it'll be fun to watch what else happens and all the other people that you help as you continue on your journey. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to.
So many interesting and important things that Merryl said. A couple of things that stand out to me. Focus on what you can do. Don't let the haters get in your head and keep you from doing something. I'd never heard anyone say this, but I really like it. I'm going to use it again. Sometimes you have to push the I believe button. And she asked the question, and it's a rhetorical question, but I think it's a great one to leave us on. Helping. Isn't that what we're all here to do? My hope is Merryl's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Kristi Piehl and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check out flipyourscriptpodcast.com for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and information about our other great episodes.